上では喧嘩はない。あるのは高級で非常で磨きに磨き抜かれた技術のみだ。剣道というものは芸術なんだ。1秒でも早く正確に冷静に相手を倒す。精巧な戦う機会になりきる。
There's a common misconception that boxing is nothing more than throwing punches, that if you're bigger and stronger than your opponent, your victory is almost assured. Well, I can tell you from experience that this is almost never the case. And I'm a perfect example of that. I stand at 5'7" and weigh a measly 145 pounds, yet I've been able to take down people that were over 6 feet and weigh 230 pounds. If boxing was solely about who was bigger and who was stronger, I'd probably be in a wheelchair right now. Boxing is a sport of finesse, with many different techniques and variables that each fighter has to take into consideration when squaring off against their opponent. Energy consumption, foot placement, hand placement, combos, counters, and everything your opponent is doing are all things boxers have to consider when they step under those lights. Now, I know the thought of getting into the ring and throwing punches and moving your body like the pros you see on TV is an exciting one, and all that stuff with combos, counters, and head movement and all that sounds very overwhelming. But don't worry, we'll take it slow. You can't learn to sprint before you learn to crawl, I'm not dead yet, and you can't punch yet. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to learn how to do is make a proper fist. Proper fist making is the key to assuring you do the most amount of damage possible to your opponent while minimizing the risk of damage to your hands and wrists. So to start off, simply place your palm up and roll your fingers in as if you're trying to grab the top of your palm. Then you're going to want to put your thumb over top of your fingers like this. This is the only safe place for your thumb. If you place it anywhere else, you will break it. Putting your thumb inside of your fingers when you make a fist like this only guarantees that your thumb will break immediately on impact the second you actually hit something. Placing your thumb beside your fingers like this when making a fist is also dangerous, as you run the risk of having your thumb catch on something and get pulled back if you miss your target. Now I know what you might be thinking. But not dead yet. The way boxing gloves are designed, they put the thumb on the side of your hand rather than on your fingers as you suggested. Does that mean boxing gloves are poorly designed and actually dangerous for your hands? Wow, that's a really good question, anonymous viewer. If you take a close look at a boxing glove, you can see that it is designed so that your thumb fits better at the side in this little pocket than it would if you were to make a bare-knuckle fist. Your thumb is protected in this pocket. Also, in an attempt to minimize this type of injury, a lot of gloves now either have a band or webbing between the thumb and the hand part of the glove, specifically to make it more difficult for your thumb to catch on something and get pulled back while the rest of the fist continues forward. Therefore, even though your thumb is more on the side of your fingers than on top of them when wearing a boxing glove, it's still perfectly safe. However, when wearing a UFC glove, or when making a bare-knuckle fist, make sure to put your thumb on top of your fingers. Speaking of throwing a punch, let's talk about the hand when you do so. I will go more in depth on how to actually throw real boxing punches in my upcoming series for the sake of tomorrow, but for now, let's just focus on the hand. When throwing a punch, you want to aim with the knuckles— no, not that knuckles! When throwing a punch, you want to aim with the knuckles of your index and middle finger and aim using either the space between those two knuckles or with the knuckle of your middle finger. The reason why we use these two knuckles, especially in a street fight, is because they are the biggest and strongest knuckles on the hand. Typically, when someone breaks their hand, the knuckles that break are the knuckles of the pinky and ring finger because they are much smaller and weaker. In certain cases, however, it can be beneficial to hit with 3 knuckles instead of 2, those knuckles being either the index, middle, and ring finger knuckles, or the middle, ring, and pinky finger knuckles. Cases where it would be beneficial to use the 3-knuckle style of punching as opposed to the 2-knuckle style are when you decide to rotate your fist. When keeping your fist at a 90-degree angle as opposed to the typical 180-degree angle when punching, I would suggest you punch with the index, middle, and ring finger knuckles. When rotating your fist 270 degrees like so, I would suggest punching with the middle, ring, and pinky finger knuckles. The reason we would want to rotate our fist in such a manner is very simple: to slip past a person's guard. If your opponent has a really tight defense, it may be extremely difficult to slip a punch past their arms, especially while wearing boxing gloves, considering the fact that boxing gloves are way bigger than an actual human hand. Keeping your fist at a 90-degree angle or twisting it to a 270-degree angle when punching reduces the area of impact of your punch and may allow you to slide one past your opponent's tight guard. Now that you know how to make a proper fist and not break your hand, I'm going to teach you the most important thing you'll ever learn in boxing: your stance. Your stance is very important because without one, you run the risk of being completely exposed, off balance, and unable to throw a punch with any kind of power. So in order to create your boxing stance, I want you to start with your feet together and facing forward like this. Next, I want you to take one step to the side so that your feet are shoulder length apart, and take a half a step back with either your right or left leg, depending on whether you're southpaw or orthodox. Anyone who's right-handed is orthodox, and anyone who's left-handed is southpaw. The reason for this being that you always want your dominant hand to be your backhand, as that will be your power punch. As you take your step back, you're going to want to keep your back foot either facing forward or at a 45-degree angle and get on the balls of your feet. Then, put a slight bend in your knees and take your arms and swing them up by your head. For those of you that don't know, the balls of your feet are the front part of your foot, right before your toes. Staying on the balls of your feet, coupled with the aforementioned foot placement and slight bend in your knees, should make it so that you are just like a sprinter on a starting block, ready to spring forward or backward at any time. Keep your center of balance in between your legs, don't lean too far forward or too far back, and there you have it, your basic boxing stance. Make sure to keep your elbows in and hands up either by your temples or your cheekbones. The reason why we keep our elbows in is to protect our body and make sure we don't get clinched. As you can see, with my elbows out like this, it would be very easy to hit me in the body or to tie up my arms and make it so that I can't hit you. The reason why we keep our hands by our temples or cheekbones is simply because when we start to get tired, our hands will inevitably drop. If you train with your hands up here, they will drop to here when you get tired. If you train with them here, they will drop to here when you get tired. And if you train with them here, well, good luck when you get tired. You should feel strong and on balance in your stance. You will have to be taking punches after all. The best way to test this is to have someone try and push you over. If they can't, you've got a good stance. If they can, try playing around with your foot positioning by doing things like widening your stance. It is also important to note that each boxer's stance is unique to them, and things such as height will have an effect on the type of stance a person will take. For example, tall boxers, roughly 6 feet and taller, will have a stance that's a lot more tall and narrow as opposed to a shorter boxer such as myself, who will have a stance that's a lot more wide and small. Taller boxers get taller and shorter boxers get shorter, since the shorter boxer's main goal is to get in close and the taller boxer's main goal is to make sure that that doesn't happen. Alright, for those of you thinking, okay, learning how to make a proper fist and stance is all fine and dandy, but it's kinda useless if I don't know how to actually move or throw a punch. Be patient. We will get there. That's what For the Sake of Tomorrow is for. The purpose of this video was just to give you guys a literal solid base for everything that is to come. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned something in the process. If you guys did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have any questions, make sure to leave them down in the comments. I'd be happy to clarify anything that wasn't clear, and I'm always open to how I could better my videos. Make sure to be on the lookout for my 2 new series, For the Sake of Tomorrow, which this video is technically a prelude to, and my upcoming series, Fight Like Fiction, the series where I analyze your favorite fictional characters' fighting style from TV shows, movies, games, etc. in order to teach you how to fight like fiction. And this was a very shitty outro, but until then, I am not dead yet, and if you aren't either, there's always a tomorrow waiting for you.